Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today is the 26th of February 2017 and today's video is about Ryan Gosling. Now, before I get into the video, as I usually say and always say, we are not against transgenders, right? What we are against is the old machine, the system put in place that's available to the people who require it to take children, transgender these children, take away the choice which every human being has, which God has given, right? To be able to make a choice of how you want to live your life, if you want to destroy it or you want to build it. That choice is taken away, and these children are forced to live in a gender that's not the gender that they were born in by no decision of theirs. If a grown man decides that he wants to live in a fantasy of being somebody other than the gender that he has, then that's his problem. But why take children? So like I've said before, the people at the helms of this is the Vatican. They have the doctors, they have the hospitals, they have the clinics, they have the engineers, they have the people in lab coats, they have the media, they own everything. And they've owned everything and are still fighting to own totally everything as of today. It's the reason for all the chaos around that you see in the world. With the Vatican, I'm not saying there is no chaos in the world, but when the Vatican gets involved in it, it's gonna be more chaotic because it has to provide a solution that they want that fits into their main agenda of controlling everybody and controlling anything and owning the world. So, with that said, if it's your first time watching a video on a channel, I always recommend that you watch the primer video first. You can pause this video first. You can pause this video right now and go look for the primer video on this channel. When you're done watching the primer video, you can come back and continue the video, but I always recommend that you watch that first and that you also watch the Zayn Malik video and the Marilyn Monroe video at your own time. And you also download the document that's attached to every video that we make, right? You can go to the lower part of this portion of the screen on YouTube and click on show or more. You'll find a link right there. Click on that link. It will take you to a document. Download that document and study it. The document might look like it has a lot of pages, but you can read through it in 30 minutes because it's more pictures. It's just to show you the visual differences, and then from then you can come back and continue with the video. So with that said, let us get into Ryan Gosling right here. Now before I go further, let me just pull one. My stuff crashed, and give me a second, right? Let me pull this in because it crashed. All right. Okay, so this is a picture of a female pelvis. All right. Now the reason why the female pelvis is wider is because of this pubic arch right here. A female's pelvis at the least is going to have a 120-degree angle. At the least, there has to be the 120-degree angle pubic arch right here. You can follow my mouse, right? So because the pubic arch is wider, it spreads the pelvis wider apart. So that's why the female legs are further apart, right? Giving you that females that hourglass, hippie curve, right? Now, the reason for the wide pubic arch is because a female will get pregnant, and what you're looking at right here is the inside of a woman's pelvis. You can see the fallopian tubes and you can see the uterus right here. So when a woman gets pregnant, right, the weight of the baby, right, when she wants to give birth, the baby can come through this her genital area because of the wide pubic arch in here, right? Okay? So with males, the pubic arch is shorter. It's 90 degrees or less. The widest it can be is 90 degrees. It can be less than 90 degrees for a male. So when the pubic arch is narrower, right, the pelvis becomes narrow as well. It's not wide as a female. And so men's legs are, closer together. In a female, because of this, 120 degree at the least, it can be wider than 120 degrees on most females, but a female should at least have 120 degrees width in her pubic arch. It gives the ladies ability to spread their legs, have sex, and bear children. All right, does it make sense? Okay, let's go further another picture before we go down. Now this is still another picture of the female pubic arch. You can see it's wider here, right? So the legs are farther apart, right? You can see the female uterus and ovary and all those things that a female needs to be pregnant, right? So with that, we go into um, Ryan Gosling. Now, when we take a look at Ryan Gosling, if it's your first time, you probably think that you're looking at a dude. And this is how TV deceives us, and it is trying to mind control you. Because here's the trick: somebody can say, okay, why do they need to do this? Now, the reason is this: how you think in this world has certain foundations. All right. Now, in order to make you think a different way so that you can be controlled, the foundations have to be taken away from you. So what am I talking about? We live in a world which is guided by certain rules that you can surpass. Otherwise, it becomes a fantasy. So one of those rules is this: anybody born into this world has to be born through the womb of a woman. Without a woman giving birth, somebody cannot come into this world. That's a basic foundation. So if you don't believe that, then one of the basic foundations of how you think is taken away. So it's like building a house. When you get the foundation wrong, the building is going to come out wrong and it may not stand for long. All right? So that's how psychology is used to manipulate you. The basic foundations of your beliefs have to be taken away. Once that's taken away, then you can believe any other thing because they can control your mind. Now, looking at Ryan Gosling right here, you will see that he has no male brow ridge. A man usually has a brow ridge. It's going to be like a cap over his eyes. All right? Let's go further, right? Now, I choose this picture for a reason, to show you Ryan Gosling's jawline, right? With females, the jawline always tends to start just dropping right from the ears. You measure the jawline from the ears, it will start just sloping into the face into a pointy chin. All right. Now, if you don't know what a difference between a male and a male and a female, what the visual difference is between the skull, let me show you what I'm talking about. All right. Now, here's our document. You can download this. This document is attached to the video. You can download and study it for yourself. Now, with a male, from the ear, the jawline always drops slightly longer down before it starts sloping and goes into the blunt chin or flatten out chin. All right, and the jawline is always going to be shaped like an L. All right, an L in reverse. All right, depending on which side you're seeing it from. Okay. With a female, the jawline starts dropping already right from the ears and still slopes into a pointy chin. Can you see that? And the jawline is gonna be shaped like a C or a J. Okay? Now, for some females, you may see like they want to have a squarer face, but the face might look square, but when the jawline starts dropping, it's still gonna go into a C shape or a J shape. All right? Makes sense? All right, let's go further now. And back to Ryan Gosling. All right. And here's Ryan Gosling again. So as you can see, when we compare his face to that of a female, you see that it's a JC shape. And it starts sloping into a pointy chin way too quick, meaning that you're looking at a genetically born female and not a male. This is a female who's been given testosterone, making her to have like a secondary male characteristics of like growing a beard and muscle definition around, right? But the skeletal structure is never going to change. The wide pubic arch and the wide pelvis for a female will never change. The arch in her back will never change. The skeletal structures are stamped when an egg fertilizes a sperm, and you can't change that when the sex is determined before birth. All right? All right, let's go further now. Here's Ryan Gosling. I can't quite remember the movie, but as you can see, he has hips. He has an hourglass figure, right? Can you see that? And one of the deceptions that the people who own Hollywood, Vatican, play so well is because when a picture becomes too revealing, it's going to show you something that you're going to look and be, that's weird. He has hips. The pictures become hairy and fuzzy and not very clear. So this picture can be denied. Because if you pull this up, or if it ever gets on screen, they're gonna turn this into something else and say somebody said Ryan Gosling looks like a chick just because they saw this hazy picture. That's what your mainstream media, which is owned by the Vatican, and anything else that you see on TV is gonna tell you. All right, but you can see he has an hourglass figure. All right, you can't deny that. You follow my mouse? All right, let's go further to another picture. Now here's Ryan Gosling with another picture. Same, because he's gonna catch something that you're not supposed to see. They make this picture hairy and fuzzy. But I think the movie that you can find this in is called, I think, Crazy Stupid Love or something like that. It's got Steve Carell in it, and I think Emma Stone and Julian Moore. So you can look it up. And when you get to this, you can pause and freeze it and watch every single thing so you can see what I'm talking about, because our channel is devoted to providing facts for you. We don't just call anybody a tranny. We give you facts and show you how. We educate you. We don't indoctrinate just by saying, repeat after me what we say and believe that is true and don't ask any stupid questions. We provide facts, all right? Can you see that? See the hourglass figure now? Right? You're looking at him, chick, right? I'll call him Miss Gosling at this point. All right, let's go further. Now, here's another picture. It's an older movie as well. I don't quite remember the name, but you can see that they try to, hide the fact that he's got hips with this baggy looking pants, right? So you can't see it. So you see what the costume designers in Hollywood are doing? That's why, people always say that Hollywood has, if in order for you to get into Hollywood, you have to be a Freemason, because Freemasons keep secrets. That's the reason why, for a lot of non-disclosure agreements in Freemason, there's certain things you can't touch or talk about. You can't talk about someone's, like, biology. You can talk about his sexual preferences or sexual orientation, but not his biology, his body, and who he is. So that's why you can't trust anybody on TV, because they know when they come in contact with these people, they know they are not the sex that they claim to be, but they'll talk with them and do everything and then lie to you to your face. So you can't have any role models on TV. All right? Get your children away from it. All right? Teach them what to do and how to think. Right? Teach them that they have to think with their brain. They have to make sense of things. They have to, question things. So, like, for example, one of the questions you need to ask is, when I was much younger, it's I used to think about it and say, um, why would these newscasters put their life in danger to be inside a war zone, and let's say some place that there is a shooting or war and filming? They must have a lot of heart. But when as I got older, because I was learning a lot of stuff from TV and allowing TV to control my mind, I just thought that, that's just what it is. But as a child, you can even think that that thing doesn't make sense. So, for example, if you see someone with a camera filming a shooting, is the person not scared that he can be shot while taking pictures of a crazy gunman or somebody in a war zone? So that goes to show you that a lot of stuff that you watch on TV is orchestrated. That means they are not real organic events. That means these events are not happening naturally. They are being scripted out. So it's more like watching a movie in which stunts are being acting, all right, or acted out. The stunts are real and people die making the stunts. So people can die in what you're watching. It doesn't make it real. It can be orchestrated. It's just like watching WrestleMania. The stunts are very real. That's why WrestleMania, or when you watch the WWE, it will tell you, please don't practice this at home. Because when you do at home, it's not in a set environment. All right? You're making it real. You can hurt and kill yourself. Does it make sense? All right, let's go further. And this is Ryan Gosling again, and you can see the hourglass figure, right? Can you see that? And you can see the Q angle which females have, which are very acute, especially if you're female. Can you see that Q angle and see the hips poking out here, right? Can you see the Q angle? The Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. Now, if you don't know what that is, let me just pull something up so you can see what it. Go back to a document here, which I recommend that you download and you study and read for yourself, because we are here to provide facts for you. Okay? Let's see if we can find a Q angle that's good enough. Now, here's a Q angle right here, right? So, because the pubic arch of a female, right, is wider, so the hips are farther apart and pushes everything further apart, the legs. So the Q angle is very, very acute for females, right? It's that thing that gives the female that hourglass figure, right? With males, the pubic arch is closer, right? So it pulls everything closer together. So the Q angle is less acute. Now, if you see, now here's a female right here, and as you can see, the Q angle is very, very acute, because it's going to make her lean towards a side much more, right? Because of that Q angle. If we compare that with Miss Ryan Gosling over here, all right? We compare that Q angle, all right? Here, right? You can see with here, you can see it's the same, meaning that you're looking at a female. And you can also see the arch in his back, because females need to have an arch in their back so they can carry the weight of pregnancy. Otherwise, they'll just spill over, tumble over, and have problems walking and standing and sitting. You can still see, even with the tattoos covered, he has an arch in his back, almost the same arch as you can see in the female right here, right? You see that? All right, let's go further. Now you can see Ryan Gosling's hourglass figure right here. Can you see the hips? Can you see that? All right. Can you see that? Now, it's the same thing as I always tell you, because this picture is going to reveal too much. They make it hazy, so someone can comment on TV and say, "Oh, somebody accused Ryan Gosling of, looking female just because he saw this picture, and the picture doesn't look right. It looks pixelated. This other part of people." So now they turn you and I, who are clear-thinking people, into nuts, right? Because they own and control the media. They own and control how you get paid. And if that doesn't work, then, they try some other form or way. And I always tell people, like, there is no such thing as freedom. Freedom is governed by who pays you. All right? So, for example, let me use an employer and an employee example here. If your employer who's paying you to be at work tells you that you have to be at work by 7 o'clock, that employer is indirectly controlling your life, because you're going to be living your life based on the fact that you have to be at work by 7 o'clock. So if you eat, you're going to eat right. You prepare your meals quickly. You make your children set right so that you can go to bed early and wake up by 7 o'clock, right? So that's how he's indirectly control your life, and that's a form of slavery. And like I've always said, the first step in slavery, this is what people don't know. That's why you got to study your Bible. It's not just a religious book. It's a history book. It will make you wise. It's full of logic, correct, sound reason and thinking that you can apply to daily life, right? The first step in slavery is to make sure people don't own lands. Lands around the world which the Vatican have stolen, by making sure that individuals don't own land anymore, by the different federal land use acts around the world, makes land to be a property of the state. Once land has been stolen from you and become property of the state, you can't own land. Individuals can't own land without a lot of rules and regulation and paying taxes, which still brings you into the money system, which brings you into being an employee and not an employer. All right? That's why if you study the Bible, when the children of Israel were slaves in Egypt, why were they slaves? They were slaves because they did not own the land. Pharaoh only gave them land to plant on and live. It was not their own. He rented it out to them. So when he came to them and said, "You guys don't own the land. You have to pay me for using my land and living on my land," what did the Israelites need to do? They needed to work to pay Pharaoh. That's how they became slaves. That's why the first thing that God did when he brought the children of Israel out from Egypt, what did he do first? He gave them land. Because without land, you're a slave. We all are slaves because we don't own any land. all lands are property of the state. So we have to be forced into the money system to pay for the land that we do not own, which we use. Does it make sense? All right, let's go further. Here is another picture of Ryan Gosling, right? And as you can see, it's hazy because it's going to reveal too much, but you can still see the spreading hips, right? The hourglass figure, all right? I don't know if you know what a female looks like. Let me show you again, just to refresh your memory, all right? Here's a female. Females have an hourglass figure because the hips are wider, because the pubic arch is wider, which spreads the hips out further and the legs further apart. So she has that hourglass figure, which Miss Ryan Gosling over here has. All right, can you see that? Okay, let's go further. Another picture. This was one of the pictures. I tried to pull it up and see if I could find a clearer one. It's still the same picture that I showed previously. And as you can see, the hourglass figure, right, of Ryan Gosling. Can you see that? All right, let's go further. Another picture. And this one you can clearly see, even with the pants that he's wearing to try to hide it. I don't know what I'm not sure if the movie I have is correct. It's called, I think, Crazy Stupid Love. You can pause it and watch it and you will see this. So you don't think that I'm just talking, because I am dedicated. We are devoted to providing facts for you when we call someone a tranny. We just won't call anybody a tranny off the bat. We have to show you facts. If we don't show you enough facts, then that means it's not true. So you see that hourglass figure following my mouse, right? Ryan Gosling. Miss Ryan Gosling. Let's go further. For some reason. Okay, let's go further right again. Still see that? When a female sits, she spreads. It spreads in the sense that you can still see that hourglass figure. You see that right here? See the way he sits and he spreads? And the shoulders are too short. Remember, for a male, when the trap muscles ends on a male, right, there's going to be some form of extension out further, shoulders, right? But if you're a female, the trap muscles just goes right into your shoulders, because a female's shoulders are usually shorter than her hips. It doesn't mean it can be wider, but it's in usual cases it's always shorter. See that hourglass figure right there? See as he spreads himself? Hourglass figure. You're looking at a female. You're looking at a chick sitting, right? See that? Another dude, all right? They just buff him up with testosterone and make him go to the gym maybe 4 or 5 times a week to add some muscle, right? Because without testosterone, right? Testosterone is the supplement. I'm a bodybuilder myself. Testosterone is the supplement, or it's a requirement for you to build muscle. So if you're female, no matter how hard you work in the gym, your muscles are not going to be massive like a man. It's still going to look supple because you don't have enough testosterone, right? There's a little testosterone there. It's just for you to have enough for your muscles as a female. With males, we have a huge amount of testosterone in our body compared to estrogen, which is the defining factor between males and females, all right? So that's why, for example, because of that testosterone, you see that men will have like a more rugged skin. The skin is gonna be dehydrated. It's not gonna store too much water, right? These are all parts of having testosterone. That's why, for example, if you're male, you wake up maybe once in the night to go pee, and a female might sleep throughout the night and not wake up to go pee or ease herself. That's because as a women store more water because it is a requirement for them, and when they are having children. With men, we don't need to store that amount of water. If we get dehydrated, we just drink water. That's why men consume more water than females. Does it make sense? Right, let's go further. Here's another picture. Now, in this picture right here, what I'm trying to show is the head comparisons, all right? Now, Justin Timberlake, this is Mickey Mouse Club. You can imagine how perverted this is. You can be sitting and watching a children's program and thinking you're actually watching real children play, but you're watching the inversion of sexes. Because the reason, like I've said before, is your mind is being controlled because, first of all, they have to take the foundations of which this world has a premise of living on. So, for example, one of those foundations is that a female has to give birth. That means anybody coming into this world has to come through a female, all right? Has to come through the womb of a woman. So now they'll try to portray to you that people can be born without having coming through the womb of a woman. So once that foundation is taken away, they can build on it and you can believe anything else. So that's how mind control actually works, right? That's how mind control works. So that's how the psychology in which the Vatican plays so well actually works. Because it's like building a house. If the foundation is wrong, everything else on top is going to wrong. It's not come out right. But if the foundation is okay, then everything else you build is right. Now, let's find out the reason why. Remember, we're comparing skulls now at this point. And one thing I have to remind you is like when you're comparing skulls, you have to make sure that you're comparing skulls of the same ethnicity. Because technically speaking, a black person's skull is always going to be larger than the skull of any other ethnicity based on the same height and weight that you bring into account. The reason being that the black person's bones are denser, all right? They are denser and they have the ability to have more water in it, all right? So the bones are always going to be denser. So what we're comparing now is skulls. And as you can see right here, Justin Timberlake's skull is larger than Ryan Gosling's skulls over here. Because Ryan Gosling is a female. Now, if Ryan Gosling were not, then the skull would have been almost the same. Now, let's take a note into account of Ryan Gosling's height. Ryan Gosling is 6 foot tall. Justin Timberlake is 5 foot 10 inches, meaning Ryan Gosling is at least 2 inches taller than Justin Timberlake. So even though they are young here, right? Even though they're young here, all right? His head should be bigger than the head of Justin Timberlake. But it's not. Because you're looking at a female over here, and this is male. Let's go further, all right? Here is Justin Timberlake with his co-star in that movie, I think, Crazy Stupid Love. This is Steve Carell. Now, let's look at Steve Carell's height, all right? So, Steve Carell is 5 foot 9. Ryan Gosling is 6 foot 0, meaning that Steve Carell is at least 3 inches shorter than Ryan Gosling. And his head, the head of Ryan Gosling, should be bigger on that account. But when we look at this picture, you can see that Steve Carell's head is the bigger head than Ryan Gosling's. Because you're looking at a female over here who's been mutilated, given testosterone, more testosterone to give this facial hair and larger muscles in the neck and everything to look like it's a male, but it's not. And this is a real man. Look at how square, Steve Carell's face is, and how heavy the skull is. All right, let's go further. Here's another picture of Ryan Gosling with Emma Stone. Now let's look at Emma Stone's height. We shouldn't be doing this comparison, but I just want to show you what you should be looking for, right? So Emma Stone is 5 foot 6, meaning that Ryan Gosling is 6 inches taller than her. And on account of that, his head should be far, far larger, not comparable at all with Emma Stone's head. But as you can see, the skulls are almost the same. Almost. Not the same, but almost. Meaning that you're looking at a female. Because men usually have 10% at least more brain matter than females. And because of that, the skull has to be larger to account for that 10% at the least more brain matter than a female. It can be more than that, but the least it has to be 10%. All right, let's go further. Now here's a picture of all the cast members, and what I'm trying to show you again is that if you look at his head over here, the skull of Ryan Gosling, it is comparable to that of Julianne Moore. And how tall is Julianne Moore? Let's find out. Let's see if you can see Julianne Moore here, right? Let me do this over here because this will be far better. So Julianne Moore is 5'3", and I have checked her out. She is female, and Ryan Gosling is 6 foot. He's well over 6 or 7 feet taller than Julianne Moore. So that means as a male, his head should be far larger, not comparable to that of Julianne Moore. And as you can see, his head is comparable to Julianne Moore, Marisa Tomei, and Emma Stone. Here were all females. And Steve Carell's head is the far larger skull here. Can you see that? Right? So with that, I come to the end of today's show. Like I always say, subscribe and look with your eyes. Don't believe everything you see. Look with your eyes and see with your brain, because that's how you're supposed to see. All right? Thank you, and bye-bye.